Welcome back to the second mission in the Semper Syria campaign in Shock Force 2. In the last mission, we snuck ashore with a platoon of Recon Marines to prepare Beach Landing Zone White for the amphibious landings. Now we're commanding the first wave of infantry going in their AAVs. It is 0510 on the 21st of June, the weather is warm and the ground is dry, but the sky is a bit overcast. Our mission here is to attack across BLZ White and extend the bridgehead so that LCACs and LCUs can start transferring heavier equipment ashore, as well as to secure MSR corvettes, which will allow forces to rapidly exploit inland. This means that we're following up into Al Hamadiyah. First Recon platoon is already on the edge of town, occupying the OPs they reached in the last mission. Beyond them, we have a roughly 700 by 800 meter chunk of open farmland, punctuated by a few farms and building complexes. This all slopes gently upwards towards the east, and we can split it into 3 corridors. On the left, access to the fields is limited by the river we encountered in the last mission. There's a roughly 200 meter wide choke point that looks like it's been prepared for defence. Further up on the left there looks to be more defensive works, 2 small buildings and a small wood on the far side. The centre and right are very similar. Access is through Al Hamadiyah, the multi-storey buildings of which overlook the entire space. In the centre there are 2 dirt tracks leading inland past a small building and what looks like another defensive position. The rightmost track leads to a large building at the far end of the map. This is Beach Landing Team Objective 3. On the right, MSR Corvette runs from Al Hamadiyah to BLT Objective 2, which is a pair of multi-storey buildings on either side of the road, and then on to MEU Objective Bravo at the edge of the map, going past a couple more buildings including a large tower. Again, it looks like there are plenty of defensive works scattered about on this flank. Whether these will be occupied or not is a key question. The enemy is reacting to the Marine landings, but that reaction has been severely undercut by coalition air and naval power. This is disrupting the response of local coastal defence units, but what elements are reacting could well be highly motivated and able to benefit from existing fortifications. Pitted against them, we're bringing a significant force of Marines to this party. 1st and 2nd platoons of Golf Company, plus a Scout Sniper platoon, are already ashore in their AAVs. The AAVs themselves are armed with Mark 19 automatic grenade launchers and 50 caliber M2 machine guns and can carry 25 passengers, but they are very lightly armoured. Lots of Marines in a vulnerable vehicle is a bad combination, so it's going to be important for me to get the infantry out of them at the slightest hint of danger, and then keep the vehicles away from the enemy so that they can support the rifle platoons with saturation fire without risk for themselves. Off the Golf Company's left, 2nd Platoon Fox Company is conducting a heli-borne supporting attack and will move south to support after 10 minutes. This will bring both another Marine platoon into the battle, as well as one of the Cobras escorting them in. In addition to the attack helicopter, at the start of the battle, the USS Mason is on station providing naval gunfire support, and an RQ-7B Shadow drone is overhead. After 5 minutes, 2 4-tube sections of 81mm mortars and 1 2-tube section of 60mm mortars will become available. Following them, at the 20-minute mark, the USS Samson will be on call. Then after 25 minutes, a pair of F-18 Hornets will come on station. All of the 3 ground objectives, BLT Objectives 2 and 3 and MEU Objective Bravo, are worth 25 victory points if occupied. There are another 10 points on the table each for causing 70% or more enemy casualties and keeping friendly losses below 15%. That makes taking the ground the critical aim here, so although I've got a lot of fire support, sitting back in Al Hamadiyah and using it to delete enemy positions isn't going to be enough. There's only 1 hour on the clock, and because I feel the AAVs are very vulnerable, I feel like I'm limited to dismounted forward movement. So I think the key element is going to be efficiently supporting the advance of the Marines on the ground. It's also leading me towards taking the shortest route to the objectives. They're all in the far right corner of the map, so moving up on either side of MSR Corvette to take BLT-2, before swinging onto BLT-3 and Objective Bravo seems like the most straightforward approach. That's not a problem for Golf Company because I can deploy them directly into Al Hamadiyah. 2nd Platoon Fox Company, on the other hand, which will be deploying dismounted somewhere along the left map edge, will be way out of position to directly participate. I don't know exactly where that platoon will appear, but I do know there are Syrian positions on that flank that could immediately catch them in an unfavourable situation. So before we've even started, I've got two axes I need to split my firepower between. This will hopefully work out in my favour, though Fox 2 may well be able to roll up some of the enemy positions that could put flanking fire onto my planned attack up MSR Corvette, or even get themselves into a position on the left where they can support by fire. We'll see. To begin with though, I have a series of fantastic positions in Al Hamadiyah I can use to get to grips with the enemy's defensive layout. The recon platoon is already there watching. Between them, the Shadow Drone, the Scout Sniper platoon and the Gulf Company fire support teams, I should be able to start prioritising targets and creating the conditions to attack BLT-2 very quickly. When the battle starts, spots immediately start flooding in, as do Syrian mortars. There are plenty of these, but they're all firing blind, and the only fire mission that has any effect is the one aimed at OP-101. The Recon Marines there quickly bug out, but lose a man to a stray mortar bomb in the process. Bringing the AAVs up through the streets and between the buildings, I start deploying Scout Sniper squads and fire support teams into the minarets of the mosque and other tall buildings on the edge of town. Right now I've only got the USS Samson on hand though, and the FO team with the Recon Marines is already directing shells onto Syrian mortar teams they spotted at the back of the map. There look to be 3 pairs of these, and it's not long before they're subjected to 5-inch air-bursting rounds from the Samson. As soon as I can see good effect on target, I start adjusting the fire mission onto the next group. Surprisingly, the Scout Snipers are getting in on this as well. Some of the teams are armed with 50 caliber Barrett M82s, and from their positions on the edge of Al Hamadiyah, they're able to reach out and touch Syrian soldiers 700 meters away. At the 10-minute mark, the lead elements of Fox Company's 2nd platoon arrive. Luckily, they've popped in some dead ground on the left and aren't too exposed. I don't think I'm in a position to do anything with them quite yet though. Like 1st Platoon Gulf Company on the far right, I'm content to wait, spot targets and direct fire for the time being. That involves bringing in one of the escort Cobras that accompanied the Fox Company air assault. After 5 minutes it gets to work with its 20mm cannon. There doesn't seem to be much for it to go after though. There are certainly Syrian infantry elements spread about the trench systems, but the Cobra focuses on vehicle targets. Up to this point, I haven't actually suffered any incoming direct fire. Getting Golf 1 out of his AAVs on the right and up to the edge of Al Hamadiyah fails to elicit a response. Not even opening up on the buildings of BLT-2 gets a reaction. After 20 minutes of continuously dropping naval gunfire on spotted enemy units and trench lines, I decide I can't wait anymore and start moving forward. Golf 1 sends a fire team out towards BLT-2 on the right. There's no real cover, just an open field full of crops, so they'll have to go to ground if anybody opens up on them. But they have the entire rest of their platoon backing them up, plus their AAVs and the longer ranged assets I have in central Al Hamadiyah. The battalion mortars have come online too, and I'm immediately directing the medium mortars to the left to support Fox 2. They've been probing forward as well, and there's an arc of positions ahead of them that is definitely occupied. I've been reluctant to divert the naval guns onto them because they're a little bit too close, but the lighter mortars don't have the same problem. They certainly have the right effect when they start coming in, prompting the Syrians in the leftmost trench to bug out. Things are less encouraging on the right. It turns out that there are enemy troops in the buildings on BLT-2, they've just been holding their fire. A burst cuts down one man from the leading fire team, and suddenly we have a firefight on our hands. It's a very one-sided firefight though. Some of the Golf 1 elements return fire immediately. I order everything else to join in next turn. That includes some of the AAVs, which start pasting the offending buildings with 40mm grenades from their Mark 19s. That certainly encourages the Syrians to keep their heads down, and soon I'm leapfrogging Marines forward across the field, aiming to get into a position to storm the right-hand BLT-2 building. Within a few minutes, the leading team is outside the building and the Syrian survivors inside are surrendering. This forward movement has freed up some space for me to bring Golf 1's 3rd Rifle Squad forward, but not long after they've gotten into a better support by fire position, they're caught in an enemy mortar barrage. These are evidently firing from off-map. I've neutralised all the Syrian mortar teams I can see, so there's not much I can do about them now except to try and get my infantry under some overhead cover. This is what happens when you hang around in full view of the enemy. Clearly, I need to speed things up. I can't afford to get bogged down clearing the other buildings in BLT2, which still have some residual Syrians hanging around in them, so it's time to turn the firepower dial up to 11. Having 5 AAVs pace the buildings with their Mark 19s is a start, but there are other targets in depth too that are going to need attention to grease the wheels. The USS Mason and the 2 F-18s have come online, giving me even more firepower to exploit as I start switching from force targeting to terrain targeting. I'm not looking for specific targets to delete anymore. I'm using mortars, naval gunfire and 2,000 pound JDAMs to smash positions I expect to cause me trouble. With my Marines halfway into BLT2, that means that BLT3 and Objective Bravo get the bulk of the attention. I'm just going to flatten everything in my way. On the left, meanwhile, Fox 2 has cleared out the first trench line, and with the relatively slow pace of my advance on the right, I'm starting to think about getting forward over here so that I have some forces in position to make a dash for BLT3 if time starts running out. There are still some Syrians around, notably in the farmhouse at the far end of the defensive arc, but the Marines of Fox 1 have enough organic firepower to deal with them. After a few minutes of intensive urban remodelling back on the right, I'm able to get troops across to the other side of BLT2 and secure that objective. Behind those buildings, there's a trench in the palm grove. That's been cleared out by airbursting 5-inch shells, but the 2 buildings beyond that are still occupied. They're a bit too close for all the heavy firepower to work on, so it's time to bring the AAVs into action again. That involves moving them up, which feels a lot riskier than it probably is. Through the whole game, I've only spotted a single Syrian anti-tank unit, an SBG recallless rifle team that I promptly bumped to the top of my hit list and wiped out. The RPGs carried at squad level by Syrian infantry are no joke, so some distance is still important, but the AAVs can give me an injection of the 2 things I need right now, speed and firepower. They bring Golf 1's base of fire up to BLT2, which frees up the Marines occupying the objective to push on. While I send 2 squads out right to clear the next trench and get onto the flank of Objective Bravo, the other follows up all the fires on the close-in buildings and clears them out. By now, Fox 1 is starting to move on to BLT3 from the farmhouse. They have a bit of a moment when a Syrian infantry squad fires at them from another building, but after some return fire and a couple of JDAMs, the problem goes away. Also out of the picture is any potential resistance from BLT3. This was a pretty chunky multi-storey building at the start of the battle. After being hit by several 2,000 pound bombs, 5-inch shells and over 100 81mm mortar bombs, it's just a big pile of rubble. Rubble which I've continued to pummel with airbursts just in case there's anybody left in there. There is a lone Syrian soldier in the ruins of an outbuilding who fires off a few rounds before changing his mind about the whole thing, but that's essentially the last of the resistance. When fire teams from Fox and Golf move into BLT3, nobody is willing to try and stop them. Objective Bravo is clear too. Joined by one of the AAVs, the flanking squad has gunned down a few enemy soldiers trying to flee the scene, but actually occupying the objective area is an exercise in carefully sweeping through blasted ruins and craters. The battle doesn't end when the timer reaches 0, there's some variable extra time, but with Marines sitting on all 3 objectives and nobody shooting at them, there doesn't seem any reason not to call it. The result is, somewhat unsurprisingly, a total victory for the Marines. It's not been perfect by any means. I've lost 13 men dead and wounded. The only significant casualty incident was the mortar barrage on Golf 1's base of fire. The remainder were scattered losses to lucky shots, magic shrapnel, and the baseline risk of advancing to contact. The Syrians, on the other hand, have taken 148 casualties, plus 12 men taken prisoner, and lost 4 vehicles, 3 Ural trucks and a UAZ jeep. The vast majority of these casualties were caused by fires, primarily the naval guns and the 2,000 pound JDAMs dropped by the F-18s. I think the really interesting point in this battle was that transition between recon-led fires, i.e. targeting specifically identified enemy units, and command push fires, meaning I'm going this way, every position that could potentially pose a threat gets hammered. To some extent, that switch was controlled by the availability of supporting assets. I got more organic naval and air support as the battle went on, so the option to engage in saturation fires became more tenable. That said, I did have loads of firepower standing by in the AAVs waiting to be used, and I could have started getting stuck in with them earlier. It's certainly not impossible. I could have made faster progress, especially on the right, by exploiting that on-map direct firepower. But one of the reasons I was reluctant to get stuck in with the AAVs was my concern about Syrian anti-tank assets in depth, particularly ATGMs. Waiting until more longer-ranged off-map support was available meant that I was ultimately able to engage the enemy throughout their defence. The Syrians within 100 metres or so of my infantry could be smothered in 40mm grenades, while positions further back could be suppressed or destroyed by the mortars, naval guns and air support. Each of those elements on their own is limited in effectiveness. The infantry and AAVs alone could be exposed to the enemy beyond their effective ranges, while the off-map assets on their own could not be decisive without boots on the ground to follow up their effects. We'll see if this is something that's going to crop up more in the Marine campaign, but for now, we've got our beachhead, and the 26th MEU can start bringing all that heavy kit ashore. In the next mission, we're going to be providing some flank security for the push north towards the city of Tartus, which looks like it's going to be a pretty different experience. Hope you all enjoyed this one and found it interesting. If you'd like to watch these videos early and support the channel, you can do so via Patreon and YouTube memberships. Whether you do or not, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.